Water-based finishes have really come a long way in recent years, but one of the things they still do to your wood is they raise whiskers in it. It's just natural that when you get moisture on a piece of wood, it raises the grain a little bit, and you don't want that raised grain in your finished project. So what you want to do, if you're going to use a water-based stain, is de-whisker the wood ahead of time. Now I've got a couple pieces here. The piece on my right is silky smooth, right off of my random orbit sander. The piece on the left, not so much, because that one has already got started on the de-whiskering process that I'm talking about. So here's the deal. I've got a coffee can full of water here and my foam brush. In order to de-whisker, what you want to do is put water on at about the same level that you would put finish on. So I'm looking at this water the same way I would look at the water-based polyurethane I'm going to put on this later. Put it on in the same volume. What that's doing is soaking into the fibers. That's what's going to cause those fibers to pop a little bit. And after an overnight time period to let that dry, then the board is like this and quite rough across the face. The grain has raised all the way down the length of this board. So you've got to let the grain dry before you come back to the next step. Now this is when we get to the de-whiskering part. So of course you get your trusty razor out of the bathroom for removing the whiskers. No, we actually want to do this with a piece of sandpaper. The key is light touch. If you over sand this, what's going to happen is, yes, we're going to get the whiskers off, but we're going to take the wood down to a point where we have to de-whisker all over again. So I've got a 320 grit sandpaper in my sanding block. I want to just skim over the top of this with a very light touch, just enough to knock the whiskers off, not enough to get past them to where I'm back down to the original surface again. On this board, that's about all it's going to take. This one's about done. Like I said, if you over sand, what's going to happen is that you're simply going to have to do this process all over again. Now, what the de-whiskering is going to do for you, when you put your water-based on here, you might still have a little bit of grain come up, but it'll be nowhere near as dramatic. The big deal with that is that as we sand the whiskers off under a finish, you don't want to get to a point where you're taking so much off, you're taking the finish off. So what we gain by doing this ahead of time is a lot less sanding once we've got a